All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here of No Debate Sports. Waiting on my guy DJ Triggs. He's caught up in traffic at the moment, but he will be here soon joining us. And yeah, a few interesting things happened today. One was a player that I really liked playing for the New York Jets, Michael Carter. I liked him coming out of North Carolina, but as of late, over the last year or so, he had a really bad knee injury, and today was the day the New York Jets released him. So bummer there. Guy I really liked, but what they have with Dalvin Cook and Brees Hall, that's the core of their running game, and that is how they're going. Another interesting thing happened today, a little bit before that, with a team in their division, the Buffalo Bills actually fired Ken Dorsey. And we kind of saw the beginning of this happening a while back where they had a primetime game, and we all saw Ken Dorsey slam his offensive playbook. And you could already tell that back then there was something not quite right with this offense. And I really do put more of this on Ken Dorsey than I do Josh Allen. I know Josh Allen leads the league in interceptions, but when we really look at it, what we're seeing with Josh Allen is that it is a massive change in the offense. And Josh Allen's greatest successes were with Brian Dable. He had a little bit of wildness before Dable, and now he's definitely showing that again post Dable. So there's something there that he needs a guy of that caliber to reel him in, make it so that offense can run and that he can do what he's really good at and really making those explosive plays, but really starting to reel back I don't know, the danger factor that he brings where it's erratic, where he's throwing wild throws when he doesn't need to, like a lot more of making those high accuracy completions instead of really just gunning it all over the place. And should Josh Allen do that, he should definitely have success. This guy can put up yardage like no other. But I do wonder if a little bit from his injury last season might be playing into this as well. Could be that. But definitely a big thing with the offense is not going quite right. So that's something there that's not doing its thing. But yeah, so we got that going on. And it's interesting because the Buffalo Bills were a team that we thought could be at the top of the entire AFC. And should Josh Allen be playing a lot better than what we've been seeing lately, they would be able to do that. They would be at the top of the conference. But when you're so erratic and you're causing these turnovers, that's what's going to happen. When you look at the majority of games with turnovers, when it comes to win percentage, the team that gets the +1 differential on turnovers wins about 55% of their games. When you get 2 plus turnovers in your favor, it becomes like 70%. And if you get 3 or more, it's like 90-ish, pretty much a lock. So that's a massive problem with what's going on with the Buffalo Bills. And should they do this, they'd probably be about a 2-3 loss team. So it's a real bummer that that's what's going on with the Buffalo Bills. But it's very evident they had to make a change. A change that to me feels similar to what we did with my Raiders. So I see that kind of mindset where you know that, hey, things should be different and you have to get that change now. And that's exactly what the Buffalo Bills did. So I give them a lot of credit because it seems like things are coming in place. Dalton Kincaid is playing better. They have Dawson Knox. They can go that 12 personnel. James Cook looks better. Latavius Murray looks solid as well. So you have a really nice 1-2 punch in the backfield. And then your wideout targets are Diggs, Davis, and Shakir. But my concern is that when you look at all three of those targets, they're small. They're all small, speedy guys. None of them has that bona fide game-breaking kind of size like you look at the Chargers receiving targets. They have size and speed. You have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson. Those guys have size. That's what you need. When you look at the Bills, they're all kind of like Tyreek Hillish. So I do wonder if that's what's kind of factoring into what's going on with this team. So I think that's a major, major cause of concern for what's going on with Buffalo. And I think that needs to change in the offense. They need to bring in at least 1 to 2 receivers that brings size. We know there's some disgruntledness going on with Stephon Diggs, and that probably is continuing to resonate. He probably needs to go, is what I'm taking on this. You can deal him, you can get plenty of capital in return. So turn that into something that you can send him, bring some size for Josh Allen. This is a guy he needs, when you look at Josh Allen, it feels like he's having almost trouble seeing the field, which is kind of odd. But I think if you give him some bigger targets, some guys with speed, he can totally rectify this. He's doing it with Dalton Kincaid. The connection they had in the game last night was excellent. That's what they need. They need more size at the wideout position. Going way back, if you look at our YouTube stuff and our TikToks, you'll see that we pointed out Elijah Higgins, and we were thinking that guy would be an ideal fit for Buffalo. They did draft a bigger size receiver, but he's still probably about 4th back on the depth chart at least. So something there is not working. I don't fully understand it. I mean, Gabe Davis and Diggs are excellent, but there's something there that I think they need size. And I think going 2 small, speedy short guys is not the answer. So deal Diggs, maybe keep Davis, maybe do something with Shakir. Something like that, I think, is the way you'd want it to work. I wouldn't want to just get rid of both Davis and Diggs. I think you go at least one big outside, and either you keep Shakir in the slot or you go with another big inside, kind of like a Keenan Allen or a CeeDee Lamb kind of prototype. So that I think that's the model that would best suit Josh Allen. Maybe one small, speedy, fast guy in Gabe Davis, maybe another guy, a guy who can just do a Deshaun Jackson go route. And then you have your tight end in Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. So I think that would work out really, really well for Buffalo. So that's what we got there. And it's kind of interesting looking at things and looking at how these teams are doing. I mean, if we take a look at some of these standings, and I really want to go deep into this and see what we're looking at here. Oh, hey, cool. So we'll come back to that. We'll go back to those standings. But hey, let's come back here. Our guy Josh, thanks again for coming back here. And here we go. We got some fantasy football questions here. So let's take a look at this. And let's see what he's got here. So he's proposing that he would trade Christian Kirk and Aaron Jones for Travis Etienne. This is that big 20-team PPR team. And we saw his roster yesterday with Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones. Big player of note, Jonathan Taylor is on bye. So we have that. We have Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Kelsey, and Kirk. So looking at this week, DJ Moore is probably a guy you're probably going to have to play. Tyreek Hill for sure. That's a guy you're going to play. Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback. I like that. Taylor is sitting. So I don't know. I mean, the thing that I like when it comes to Kirk is he's about the one consistent piece of a wide receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can count on him. You can count on how they utilize the slot. So when we see those matchups with the Jaguars and what they have, that's something you want to look at. So I'm going to pull up here and see what the Jacksonville Jaguars matchups are for this week, knowing they just came off a really, really tough matchup against San Francisco. So that's something I want to look at there, because if we unload Christian Kirk and Aaron Jones for ETN, it's like we're kind of flipping a different side of the coin. ETN's really solid. I think this is truly his breakout year. It was hard to tell. It was hard to tell going into the season because I really enjoyed what I saw out of Tank Bigsby in the preseason and thought part of that could translate into the regular season and he could take over like we're seeing in Pittsburgh with Jalen Warren overtaking Najee Harris. So let's take a look at what's going on with these matchups. And we're looking at Jacksonville. I want to be heads up on that against Tennessee. Okay, cool. We got that. So this wouldn't process till next week. So that's something to know about. But yeah, so I mean, if you're letting go of Aaron Jones, you have ETN. That would something. Okay, I would have to start Demario Douglas at flex. Man, yeah, Patriots guys are pretty tough. We don't want to really play around with those guys for the most part. But the thing is, too, if this is a 20-team PPR, I would figure the majority of the league is kind of thin in players just in general. So if I could hold on to more well-known home run hitting kind of players as possible, I would probably try to do that. So Aaron Jones is coming back from hamstring issues, and it looks like he's starting to take over the majority of the snaps. Plus, Christian Kirk is very consistent in the slot when those slot matchups really match up and dictate that. So something I want to go here now. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm gonna do a search on this. I want to show you something here with the slot receivers, and then we can kind of take a look at the remaining schedule for Jacksonville and get a feel for kind of how this matchup is starting to look. So I'm going to share my screen on here so we can kind of play along and see what's going on with this. So let me pull this up. Let's go a screen share. Cool. All right. And let's see what happens. Okay. Cool. All right. So we got Rasball wide receivers, and we'll put slot because they have the defensive matchup on this. So I like seeing this. This is a really good tool, especially on the mobile version. So that really helps. So let's take a look at this. And I'll put a copy of this in the link so that way people can go back and save this and kind of use it in the future. So kind of cool here. So let me put that here for you guys. Okay, there we go. All right, there goes that. And now let's go back to Rasball and take a look at what we're seeing here with these matchups against the slot. And come on, computer. All right. All right, computer, being a little difficult. All right, let's try this again. Let's see what happens. All right. No. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. We're back on the page. And we're trying to get to what's going on here. Okay, there we go. We got it. A little bit tough on this website, but it's a lot easier on the mobile version. I can promise you that. Okay, this is not working. All right, we're gonna do this on the phone, and we'll talk about it. So, all right. So who do we got here with this? So let's take a look at what's going on with this just in general of slot receivers versus Jacksonville. So here we go. I got it, and we're pulling that up now. All right. Thanks for sticking around with us with these difficulties. It's been a little finicky tonight. But let's take a look at the slot. So already we know that this week Jacksonville is playing against Tennessee. So I'm looking at that right now, and I can tell you Tennessee right now ranks about 13th against the slot when it comes to all receivers' fantasy points that Tennessee gives up. They give up about 70% outside and 30% inside. and they are one of the better ranking teams inside. So let's take a deeper dive into where these opponents are that are going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if we look at this, and this is Christian Kirk, so we're going to plug him into our search. And we're looking up the schedule that Kansas City plays here on out. So they got a bunch of AFC South games already against Tennessee. All right, then we got Houston coming up. And we know that matchup occurred in the past. And Christian Kirk balled out, actually. So that was a matchup that they did really well. Again, Houston actually ranks very poor against the slot. They are 7th most generous against the slot. So that's a good matchup. Cincinnati's coming up on that schedule, right? Cincinnati is, again, rather stingy. So they are even better than Tennessee at the slot. So right there, 2 out of the next 3 games we think are going to be duds. We think the Houston game could be another success. Let's go to Cleveland. Cleveland, again, that's another tough team to play in the slot. Zay Jones Zay Flowers just played against him. Did okay, not the greatest. So we'll kind of put that as kind of maybe an average kind of game, maybe a 8-ish 7-point game there, not the greatest. So we'll say again, 3 out of the next 4 then aren't looking that great. Baltimore, again, that's another really good team. So yeesh. So we're looking at like 4 out of the next 5. So you got Cleveland, Baltimore, you got all this going on. Then you got Tampa Bay. So this is where it gets interesting. Now we get to the last 3 games of the season. And again, Baltimore, depending if you're most leagues for fantasy, that can be a red flag there. But we're looking at Tampa Bay against the slot. They are 2nd most generous in the entire NFL at 21 points per game in the slot. So that's huge. Carolina's right down there too at number 17 and for the 17th game of the season. And Carolina is one of the better ones. So that's not looking so hot. And then again, Tennessee again. So this is not the most favorable schedule that we're looking at here when it comes to Christian Kirk. And I think that Christian Kirk is pretty much the main component of this trade. Like Aaron Jones is pretty solid too, but it almost feels like that's a split, right? So that's a split of pretty much Aaron Jones for Travis Etienne. If we're looking at Christian Kirk the rest of the way out, we're looking at pretty much 2 more explosive games. So for Josh, we're looking at the week that you would let go of him. He would pretty much have a good week that week. And then probably in your fantasy, in the fantasy semifinals of the team he goes to, he should have another good game as well. So now we're looking at Aaron Jones and ETN. So now that gets interesting. So let's look at when it comes to just points against running backs and how these teams are playing against, right? So when we look at the running backs, and we already know what Jacksonville's schedule is going to be. So if we're looking at this, we can see that for some of these guys, okay, let's look at total fantasy points per game and who they're going up against. So we know Carolina is on that schedule. They're very favorable. So that's a high point for Carolina. Who else is up here as well? So Tennessee Titans about middle of the pack. We know they're on this. We know Cleveland and Baltimore are part of this as well. Where do they fall? So if we look for Cleveland and Baltimore, I would expect them to be some of the better defensive teams. Baltimore is kind of the back, almost like bottom of the first third of teams that are good against the running back. Cleveland's right there with them. So that's kind of interesting. I would definitely expect Travis Etienne to have some success. It would be via almost receiving because he's kind of that shifty slot back kind of a guy. So if I look at that and change up the analytics for how these guys interact, and I look at just the receiving side of things, right? So now Tennessee is absolutely one of the better ones. Tennessee is going to play them twice, including next week. So that's a strike against ETN. Cleveland is, again, still at the top against receiving running backs. When we look at Baltimore, where does Baltimore fall? So Baltimore falls about middle of the pack for receiving running backs. So sometimes good, sometimes bad. It is what it is. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're down there as well. Carolina Panthers, they're kind of that bottom third too. So it really comes down to just how impressive ETN is. And man, is it ETN or Aaron Jones? I think that's what it comes down to. Man, I think at this point, I'm just going with overall rankings and almost like belief in the offense. I almost believe that I would just have more belief moving forward with ETN and Jacksonville than the Packers offense. There's something weird about it. It's just not something I can always trust. I mean, I do know that Aaron Jones and Jordan Love have phenomenal chemistry. Is that going to result in a lot of fantasy points? Plus, we already know there is a hamstring issue there. So, yeah. So for Josh, this is for you. You're trying to get ETN. So yes, I would absolutely make that deal because I know I'm getting ETN in return. It's going to be a little uphill sledding, but I think it's going to get there. So I like this. I actually think that this can actually work out pretty well. So yeah, I think this is a win, Josh. I would absolutely go for it. Go for that trade. Deal deal Aaron Jones, deal Christian Kirk. I think this is absolutely going to work well for you. So yeah, I like it. It's a pretty good trade for you. You're only giving up 2 like phenomenal games from Christian Kirk, and you're dealing for pretty much Aaron Jones for ETN. I think you're going to get more on the return of ETN than you will Aaron Jones. So I like this trade. It definitely takes some time to break it down, but this is a trade that should definitely work well for you. So I like it. It's pretty favorable, and I think this does you well in the long run. So good stuff there. So yeah, having a little bit of computer issues here tonight with the network. Being a little difficult here tonight. And our boy DJ Triggs should be here a little bit later tonight too. So we'll see if he gets here in time. But we'll see what happens soon. All right. So definitely more. If anyone else has more fantasy football questions, definitely hit us up at NoDB8Sports.com. You can hit us up on any of our socials, like you're seeing here down on our banner. And yeah, just go ahead and fire away on the comments, and I'll answer them as many as I can tonight. So we'll make what we can. And with that, boom, there's your boy, DJ Triggs. He made it. He made it in the nick of time.
Man, oh, I don't know about nick of time, but it's nuts being a basketball coach for the youth.
I know the youth, today's generation, they appreciate it. So that's a win.
Yeah, I don't know about the parents though.
Oh yeah, that's a bummer. That's a tough crowd.
Oh man, I see there's some questions already popping up. That's awesome.
We do exactly. Yeah, it is absolutely awesome. Glad to have our guy Josh back, and he brought up this trade that he's proposing, that he's trying to acquire Travis Etienne. So he wants to deal Aaron Jones and Christian Kirk for Travis Etienne, and I think this is beneficial. I think this is a trade that you should pull off. And I was concerned because, especially Christian Kirk being the most consistent piece of the receiving core for Jacksonville. And I looked at it, like, how many really good games does he have pretty much the rest of the way out for the season? And after dissecting it, I only came up with 2, and his trade processes after this week. So this week you can pretty much throw out, which ironically is a bad matchup for Christian Kirk anyways. But the next week is a good matchup against the Texans. And granted, they lost that game against the Texans, but Christian Kirk had a day. If people remember the very first game, Christian Kirk had a dud, but then he pretty much went on a tear after that. And Houston has struggled against slot receivers. So I think this is a really nice matchup for Kirk there. But then he has one final good matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everything else looks tough. And again, 2 of those are against Tennessee. So that was a part of the deal that I was unsure about. I felt if there were more good Christian Kirk games, then I wouldn't do that deal. But considering we're really only looking at 2 maybe blockbuster days from Christian Kirk the rest of the way out, I'm okay with letting him go. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, between ETN and Aaron Jones, who would I go with moving forward? And at this point, I would go Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. No argument here. Like it could work out, but like you never know with Aaron Jones, and maybe they just give up on the season and start running AJ Dillon up the gut again. Oh my.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is like how much damage control do they want to do with Aaron Jones? I know it's a hamstring, but I still feel that there's more potential with Aaron Jones and the Packers offense than there is with AJ Dillon. So I think you are right that it might be an asset that you want to take care of and preserve as much as you can, especially if you start to see the season becoming a wash. And someone pointed this out today that when you look at the NFL right now, that you have your slew of teams that have like 3 losses, right? Those are the really good teams in the NFL. But then you have your teams that have almost like only 3 wins. Those teams aren't so great. And then you have a bunch of everyone else in the middle that can go either way. Yeah. So I know Green Bay is in that 3 or less category. So I think what you brought up is a good point.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the NFL is working out, like I honestly I don't know what's going on anymore. Like I know I said yesterday it's a lot of bad football, but like it's a lot of like everybody's the same football. Like
it is. Yeah, I think everyone's trying to do the same thing right now. What that is exactly, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that the defenses started to learn that last season, and the defenses significantly caught up to it. So and people say too, like, oh, the start of the season, the defenses are much better than the offenses. Well, we're in like week 11, and that's not changing. So we're at a point where the defenses have the edge. They know what they're doing. Granted, maybe we get further into the playoffs, and that does truly change, especially for the elite teams in the NFL. Going up against the elite defenses when you get to the postseason. But I think right now the defenses just have such an edge and just have a better read. And you have this uncertainty for a lot of teams at quarterback that it's making it easier for the defenses to razzle them and get things done. I mean, just look at last night, Denver against Buffalo.
But like that's the thing though, like with defenses, I really don't know. Like the Jets and Carolina are in the top 5, top 7 of like total yards given up. And then but they're like they're top defenses. They just don't win. Oh, and Atlanta's in that mix too. And
Absolutely.
then you have teams like Pittsburgh, Denver, Seattle, Indy, Houston are at the bottom of defense, and they're winning. So like
they are.
Nothing makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, definitely from that aspect, it can happen. But also, too, watching, like, especially the Texans, watching them play, they're doing it on both sides. And I know there's plays where Houston can kind of give up some stuff. But, man, there are times where that Houston defense just swarms. And especially being a defensive-led head coach, it translates. and pairing that with everything that we see CJ Stroud doing, that is a team that's pretty awesome. And even though they beat the Bengals, and I know the Bengals aren't technically in the playoffs, but they have a really tough schedule. I'm telling you, man, teams like Cincinnati are a team like you just don't want to go up against. They're going to play you tough each and every single week. So that's the thing, is like some of these teams, I don't know about Indy. I'm a little concerned about Gardner Minshew, but I love what I see out of Jonathan Taylor. They're on bye this week, so they don't have to worry as much. But there are some teams that are a true mixed bag. But I think, and we talked about this yesterday, is that we get this back to a regression, right? So teams like Pittsburgh and the Jets, I think, are going to continue to regress to the mean. So I think the Jets, for as long, and it can go either way, if their offense improves, they should be winning games. But if it gets worse, they're going to lose games. But if we look at Pittsburgh, I think they're just flat out going to they're just not good at offense. And I think that does catch up to them. They have a really good defense, but is it like a Cleveland defense? That I don't think so.
So, like, all right, this is like, to just piggyback off of what I was saying. So, like, Denver gives up the most points in the NFL, 27.6 points a game, right?
Yep.
They are on a 3-game win streak. Then you have
against tough quarterbacks too.
Then you have Miami, who is like giving up 25 points a game. They're one of the worst in the NFL. They're right down there with Denver, and they're number 3 in the AFC with a 60 plus 60 point differential. And I'm like, none of this NFL season makes any sense at all. And I mean, on top of that, tough. Kansas City has like no offense.
None.
But they're the number 1 team in the AFC.
Yeah, and honestly, I have those feelings too about Baltimore. I know their point differential is insane too, but I feel that way about Baltimore as well, where I'm like, man, I watch this team on offense. I'm like, I don't get these guys. I don't get what the heck is going on here, how they're this good. I get it. It's so weird. And I think we're in a position too where we could see both those teams start to slide. Someone moves up. We'll see what kind of jockeying goes on, but like what you just pointed out about Miami, I've watched Miami play. Their secondary is atrocious, whether it's Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Rhodes or not. Whoever it is, it's bad. This Vic Fangio secondary stinks. And I think this is where that regression to the mean happens. And we look at Miami against the really bad teams in the NFL. They destroy them. When they play against the better teams in the NFL, they basically fall back to reality, and they're not as good. And the Raiders are 5-5. I know it's been against both New York teams, and they're not the greatest, but the swagger, the culture, seeing the pressure that the front line has of the Raiders, it comes at you fast. And I think that will play an important factor this upcoming week against Miami. And I think this is a tougher team. And I just don't think Miami's going to just keep steamrolling these teams, especially with how bad that secondary is.
See, I'm never going to understand your hatred for Baltimore. Baltimore is the number 5 offense in the NFL and the number 1 defense scoring-wise in the NFL. So the reason why they're beating people, the reason why they're beating people is they put up 27 points a game, again, which is 5th, and they only give up 15, which is 1st. That's a point differential of 12. That's why they beat people.
Yes. The thing that I heard, and this comes to like their 3 losses, again, this loss against Cleveland is not
that was
very
magical.
Flattering. Yeah, it was magical. It was.
Magical.
It absolutely was. And the loss against the Colts and Gardner Minshew, for a team that you're putting out all these great numbers with, to lose against Gardner Minshew and the Colts, that's not a good look.
But that's the problem with the NFL though. Like every single team has that loss. Like,
yes, absolutely.
None of it makes any sense. I mean, Philly lost to the Jets.
They did. Yeah, Philly, and the Jets had nothing.
Right.
Like the Jets,
So,
the Jets did like exactly what they needed to at each opportunistic time. But other than that, had no reason winning that game. The only reason they win that game is because of Jalen Hurts turning the ball over multiple times. That's the only way they win that game. And I mean, yeah, they had a turnover or two. I think they only had one or two against my Raiders, and that still wasn't good enough because our defense still held them in check. So it is tough. It is a tough year, but I do feel too like flat out some of these numbers that we're looking at are lying to us in a way. They're not telling us the full story. I know when it comes to Baltimore, they are one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NFL. They have absolutely given up multiple leads, and all three of their losses have come from just falling apart in the fourth quarter of games. So that is something I'm concerned with. If I go back to last year, too, against the Green Bay Packers, they had a very, very questionable game going for extra multiple 2-point conversions, which ended up costing them against Green Bay. So I don't know. I still don't fully like this team. And again, too, I mean, like Zay Jones is the best wide receiver on that team, and they still can't really incorporate him as well. It's a very bizarre thing going on there with Baltimore, and maybe that's where I'm probably most fickle against the Ravens, is not seeing that. Especially I drafted Zay Jones, so yeah, it's personal.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. When I look at the AFC North, I mean, I see a lot of good things out of Cincinnati and Cleveland, but I feel like there's something weird when I look at Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
But that's the crazy part. Like, so Baltimore's the number one running defense or running offense in the NFL, and none of the
Yes.
running backs matter. Like, they just
Yes.
throw whoever out there, and the guy just runs for 100 yards. And then
Absolutely.
with Pittsburgh, nobody understands Pittsburgh. They are a playoff team, and they have like they get outgained every single game, and they have a negative point differential, and they have
Exactly.
the second best record in the AFC. Again, this is what I mean. This is how it defends my take on football right now with the NFL. None of it makes any sense. Like, Baltimore's the number 2 team in the AFC, and you're like, they're horrible. Kansas City's offense is horrible. They're number 1. The Eagles lose to the Jets, like, and then Pittsburgh is one of the top teams, and they can't even score.
They can't. No. How Pittsburgh is what? Are they 5-3 or 6-3? Actually, I got the standings right here. They're 6-3. Holy smokes.
And then think about this. Think about this.
It's crazy.
The longest win streak in the NFL right now is the Minnesota Vikings with their third quarterback, who was cut by the Arizona Cardinals. Makes no sense.
That's awesome.
No sense.
Yeah. And for as much criticism as we have about the Vikings, they are looking as the 7 seed in – this ranking is weird because it has the New Orleans Saints in like 7th, but they're the 4 seed, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, you're spot on. Like, Minnesota Vikings have won 5 straight after being 1-4. And it's crazy. And for quite a while, they had a negative point differential as well. Seattle actually does have a negative point differential at the moment. So there is a lot of wild and weird stuff going on in the NFL. And Dallas is like another team like the Miami Dolphins, how they pummel teams and then they play against a legit opponent and they get brought back to earth. So it's tough. It is a really, really tough season.
Yeah, I don't understand anything. But do you want to run through some picks really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rock through some of these games we got coming up.
All right, I don't even have to ask you about this Thursday game because I'm pretty sure I know who you're going with. Cincinnati is at Baltimore.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who I'm going with here. Joe Burrow coming off a loss. Seeing the fight that I like in Cincinnati. I'm a little bit concerned about the Trey Henderson injury, but I think they can do this. But then again, too, there is no T. Higgins either. And who knows exactly what the health of Jamar Chase is. This is an ugly one. Actually, now the more I talk about it, now I'm talking myself out. I'm going to go with the Ravens. Yep.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an about face.
Okay. I will let you jump on the bandwagon this week.
I'm on the bandwagon this week, man. As much as I want to go with Cincinnati, like, man, there's concern there. There's legit concern against the Ravens, and man, I saw some weird throws out of Joe Burrow against Houston that I didn't like.
So then we got Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'll just take the regression of the mean battle of the AFC North, and I'll stick with Cleveland. Plus, DJ Moore is actually playing well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cleveland just because I really want to take Pittsburgh.
They're not a 7-3 team. They're not.
But I don't know why they keep winning. So I can't, like, it's so hard to go against them because they have no reason why they win, but then they win. You know what? I'm going Pittsburgh. I'm doing it.
Okay, there you go. That's how you do it. Check this out. The over-under point total for this game is 37. They're not expecting a lot of points in this game.
Nope.
So
they just muck it up and then they win.
Yeah, that's exactly how they do it. And there are teams that are designed right now to win dirty. Philadelphia is one, Pittsburgh is one, and I think Denver is falling into that category too, and probably my Raiders as well, where we just know we're going to play an ugly game and we're going to win.
Can you imagine this? If Baltimore loses to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh beats Cleveland, Pittsburgh will be the number one team in the NFC North or AFC North.
AFC North. Hey, I picked Pittsburgh. I think I picked Pittsburgh to win the AFC North. Like, it's mind-blowing. I don't see it happening at this point. I think Cleveland is going to be the one that does it. But, man, it's pretty mind-blowing seeing what's going on with Pittsburgh. I think this weird stuff we're seeing on offense is just somehow a factor of them going up against some of the toughest defenses in the NFL, and there's no way out of it. I mean, we look at their schedule week in, week out, the rest of the way of their schedule. It is continuously going to be tough for them just the rest of the way out. And we're probably going to see ugly games out of Pittsburgh for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the crazy part is, yes, you took Pittsburgh to win the AFC North, and I picked them to make the playoffs. So, like,
wild.
I don't even like being right about this because it's so bad.
It is. The thing, though, that I do like that I have been seeing, I do think this gives a ton of confidence into the owners of Jaylen Warren. I think at this point, you're Jaylen Warren owner. You're like, yep, it's going to be ugly. I'm going to get some kind of crazy big explosive play at some point in the game, and it's going to happen. So I like that. That's a one takeaway and the one positive I can go with this Steelers offense.
All right, Chicago at Detroit. That's an easy one.
Oof. Yeah, that is not good news for Justin Fields and his first game back. It's Detroit.
The Chargers at Green Bay.
Chargers at Green Bay. This is a weird one because LA has got some turmoil going on at the moment. Again, they give up 1 million points and they score 1 million points, and they've pretty much lost all of these games. Yeah, I'm going to stick. Well, I like the trajectory that's going on with Green Bay at the moment. I think I'm going to go with Green Bay.
So
I don't think LA is as good as we think it is.
I actually don't think LA is that good at all.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Green Bay just because the Chargers don't run the ball very well. And
that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it is. And the only thing that really is the Achilles heel of the Green Bay Packers is teams that run on them.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty solid against the pass. They're a top 10 team against the pass, almost top 5.
Yep.
And teams just run all over them. So maybe they can bottle somebody up for once.
Yeah, and at this point, how Brandon Staley has not been fired yet, I don't understand. I personally have not liked this guy for multiple seasons. He doesn't have a good defense at all. That is his side of the ball to dictate. And man, they are just hemorrhaging points in the secondary. So, and it doesn't take much out of Green Bay to like really execute that, I think. So I think Green Bay can definitely have success against this LA Chargers defense. And if Green Bay struggles against the run and LA can't run, well, then that matches up well for the Packers.
Yeah. The next one here, the Las Vegas Raiders against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I'll take I'm going to stick with Vegas here because I think we're going to bring that pressure. I know this is a huge lopsided betting favorite. Miami is coming off a bye. The over-under in this game in points is like 47. But the thing that I'm concerned with is if the Dolphins can't stop the pressure that is coming from the Raiders front line, and if we at all, I mean, our secondary is really beat up, but our secondary still makes plays. I mean, we just went up against Garrett Wilson and held him in check. And we play a zone defense. So that's how you have to play against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I think we're going to play that zone defense. I think we're going to bring the pressure to Tua Tagovailoa. And we're just going to keep this Antonio Pierce just Raider Compton vibe rolling.
So I actually agree with you. The teams
Nice.
I said this about Detroit, I believe, yesterday, and I still feel the same way. I think Miami is the Detroit of the AFC. They have beaten the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos when the Broncos are kind of down, the Giants, Carolina, and the Patriots again. They haven't beaten anyone that's good.
There we go. So it feels like we have to bring down like a preseason banner and give the Miami Dolphins a championship of winning against trash. They win.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. And ironically, I actually did some Super Bowl bets of thinking of Miami against Detroit, but I think now it's just clear and evident that that's not going to happen. Both of those teams really win in only one-dimensional kind of ways, and I don't know. I just really feel that the Raiders are going to bring the pressure, and I think Tua is going to panic, and when he panics, he makes bad decisions.
Yeah. So the Giants at Washington.
Oof. That's that one's that's a real bummer for the Giants. I think the Washingtons can steamroll that game.
Absolutely. We'll move along here. Dallas at Carolina.
Again, that's another steamroll game. That's Dallas all day. I'm not even thinking twice about that.
Now this one will be fun. Tennessee at Jacksonville.
Wow. That is actually a sneaky good game. This is that secondary of Jacksonville that is absolutely just atrocious. But we have seen that these teams that are bringing the pressure to Will Levis, he is struggling against it as well. So there is some stuff going on with Jacksonville that's not the greatest. I think this is a bounce back game for Tennessee. As much as I love those Jaguars, I don't think things are going quite right with them, especially with this massive loss to San Francisco. And in a way, I feel Tennessee is built in a similar style to the San Francisco 49ers. Grant, they're not there in terms of record, but in terms of style and trajectory, I do like what I see out of Tennessee.
Yeah, this one's kind of weird because like
it is.
Jacksonville is like they're middle of the pack, like offensively. Tennessee's middle of the pack defensively. Like neither
Jacksonville's
team is
secondary is garbage.
Yeah, that's true. And like they don't do anything that scares you. And then the players that you would think would scare you aren't doing anything.
I do have a piece of news on this game as well.
Oh, what do you got?
So our guy that we loved talking about him, especially in the offseason, Zay Jones, and the impact that he's had, and plus being a former Raider, unfortunately, things are not going well for this guy. He has had a significant knee injury that he's been out, I think, the last 3 to 4 weeks. And today is the 14th. He actually just got arrested for assault against the mother of his child.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. This is the guy who's like their number one outside threat, opposite of Calvin Ridley. So that's pretty much gone now.
Yeah. Well, that
changes things.
Not for me. I'm taking Tennessee.
There you go. There you go.
Who'd you take? Did you take Tennessee or Jacksonville?
Yeah, I'm with you on Tennessee on this one. It's very interesting too because like both Tennessee and Green Bay, I want to say we just talked about, are significant underdogs. I want to say like they're both about plus 200. And then when we went to the Raiders, who are an obvious underdog, Vegas is like plus 500. So pretty much any of these 3 games could actually end up going really well for people that go with them.
Wow.
Yep.
Here's another one. Arizona at Houston.
Arizona at Houston. Yeah, so we got a little different look going on with the Cardinals, but I think at the end of the day, Kyler Murray is definitely a not as good version of CJ Stroud. And man, the Texans are just a terrifying team to play against now. And especially what you talked about with Devin Singletary stepping up, and I saw that on Sunday. The Texans could be one of the best teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah. So the Texans shut down the run, and Arizona not really good at. Yeah. I mean, even if that's all they got, they're not even that good at that. So, like, the Texans are probably going to pound them. Kyler Murray's probably going to have a big game just because they're probably going to be trying to come back. But it'll be a fun game to watch. But I'm going Houston.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely the way that I think that's going to end up shaping out is Houston's just going to just play better on defense and in pretty much all 3 phases of the game, I'm thinking.
Tampa Bay at San Francisco.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay at San Francisco. Yeah, Tampa Bay might have had a good matchup against the Tennessee Titans last week, but yeah, San Francisco could easily be the best team in the NFL with Jamar Chase and Joey Bosa. So yeah, that's flat out San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, and the addition of Sweat, like
that. Well, I thought Montez Sweat is with the Chicago Bears.
Oh, Chicago Bears. You're correct.
Yeah.
They got They got Chase Young, right?
They got Chase Young, correct.
Yeah. Like the bookends of those 2 guys. I mean, Sweat, Young, whatever. Whoever's over there with Bosa is just going to go to town. And that's how it happened this past weekend. Tampa Bay is the worst or the second worst pass defense in the NFL. And San Francisco's got all their boys and all their horses back. So that's not good.
That's not good. Exactly. I think Ayuk just keeps tearing up the league. And, man, that guy is just crazy impressive. He's probably the one guy that I regret the most not drafting.
Yeah. This is an interesting one after yesterday. The Jets and Buffalo.
The Jets and Buffalo. I really, considering that they already did this matchup once before and things are really sporadic with Buffalo. This is a Sunday afternoon game. Yeah, I like the way the Jets are playing. They're tough. They're kind of figuring things out. And there is turmoil in Buffalo for sure with more than one piece on offense. So not only are we seeing it with the play calling going to Josh Allen, we're seeing it with Josh Allen. And then we always have this weird energy that's going on with Stephon Diggs. So with all that going on against one of the best secondaries in the entire league, yeah, I'm taking the Jets.
Yeah, that last part that you just said. The Jets are the number 3 pass defense in the NFL, and Josh Allen hasn't had a game in like 2 years.
Yeah,
Since like he just throws interceptions every game.
exactly.
And if
I
you
kind
give,
of,
oh,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I do like how we're almost picking like good underdog picks that are around like plus 200, or we're taking significant favorites.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean it's crazy, but like Buffalo is just not that
Good.
good.
They're not. They are, and I even felt this way when my Raiders went up against them early in the year. We lost that game because of Jimmy Garoppolo turnovers that essentially made the starting field position for Buffalo at the 30-yard line for almost every single drive. I wouldn't like for us going into that game. I felt like we had a chance to win against Buffalo. I just didn't think Buffalo was this nasty, unstoppable force that we couldn't deal with. What did us in was giving them the ball at our 30-yard line almost every single drive. I don't think the Jets will
Right.
do that.
No, and I'm just thinking, hey, the Jets defense is so good that Buffalo doesn't really have a chance. And this might
Wow.
sound funny,
Yeah.
but like neither of us picked Buffalo to make the playoffs.
Wow. That is interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah. And it's coming to fruition. I mean, I definitely told a lot of people at the beginning of the year that I thought at least one of either Buffalo, Cincinnati, or Kansas City would not make the playoffs. And Buffalo is clearly becoming that team.
Cincinnati might not make it either
Cincinnati
if
might not
Pittsburgh
either.
keeps yeah,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh keeps
And,
staying on that level. Cincinnati's out.
yeah, and definitely keep an eye on Kansas City. They could definitely be in the playoffs, but I see a slide. I don't think Cincinnati just wins the AFC. I think the AFC is too good. There's too many tough teams, and I think Kansas City is absolutely going to regress to the mean. Just like you pointed out, that offense of Kansas City is dreadful. It's really dreadful. If Travis Kelce doesn't have his day, they're between a rock and a hard place. And Denver, in all encompassing purposes, could have easily swept Kansas City this year.
Right. Yeah. Oh, where are we here?
Where are we?
Seattle's at the Rams.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked at how close this game is for being picked. But I don't think this game is close at all. I'm taking Seattle.
Oh, we finally differ. The first one. Oh no,
On the
Pittsburgh
Rams and Seahawks. I would have never guessed that.
I'm going with the Rams just because Stafford's back, and that's it. Because they were on fire when he was there.
That's true. They were on fire when he was there. But this, just like Justin Fields, this is his first game coming back from the thumb injury. Yeah, I see where you're going with this, but I don't know. I think the 12s are going to travel well to LA. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, you got a point with this, with Stafford being back. So
that's it.
That's
no
it.
Other reason.
Yeah, that's probably exactly why the betting line on this game is so weird. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Seattle. If Seattle is truly real and the playoff team they should be, they should win this game.
But that's the thing. We don't
know.
Seattle's real.
Exactly. And I kind of feel that way too, that like I just don't believe in Geno Smith. Like the things I don't believe in that are somewhat with a positive record are Geno Smith and the Baltimore Ravens. I see them in person. I'm like, I don't get what the heck is going on here, how these teams are good. So, boy, Matt Stafford being back. Yeah, I kind of want to change to the Rams. Yeah, I kind of do, but I'm going to stay with the Seahawks. I'll stay with them.
Oh, you are? All right. Just to keep it different, huh?
Yeah, just to keep it different.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, Seattle's one of those teams where I'm like, man, we had both of us had them making it
We
in the
did.
wild card.
Yep.
But like,
They keep
I
playing
don't
their
know
way
why
out.
anymore.
And honestly,
Yeah.
like, how did they beat Washington? I mean, I just don't feel like I feel with all the confidence in the world. I'm glad I went with Washington last week in that pick, and I stand by that pick. That I still think Washington is a better team than Seattle.
Yeah. I have no idea anymore. This is
Yep.
why the NFL is so confusing. Minnesota
Yeah.
at Denver.
Minnesota at Denver. Minnesota is an amazing football
Wait,
team.
wait, wait. Pause. Pause.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. The two hottest teams in the NFL, Minnesota at Denver.
Exactly. Yeah, that is very interesting. It is a totally different playing condition because the Vikings normally don't go to Denver at all. This is also a night game. I'm gonna go with the familiarity, the altitude. Granted, this is the Viking. Yeah, I'm gonna take Denver. I think just the whole weird environment. I think that plays a factor in this one.
So we are agreeing. But can that make any sense to you? Denver has a 3-game win streak and Minnesota has a 5-game win streak.
Yeah.
And I like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'd pick Denver in this game, but I don't feel good about that pick. I can tell
Me
you
neither.
that.
Me neither.
If I were betting, I would not bet this game at all. I would just watch it and learn.
I don't even know what I'd learn. Like this is the game, the perfect game to like end the week on Sunday. Like,
yeah,
because you're sitting there going, like, I've said it before a bunch now, like, none of this makes any sense. These two teams are the hottest teams in the NFL. One team was literally going to like fire their coach, their quarterback, trade all their players at the deadline, and then Minnesota loses their quarterback. They get the quarterback from Arizona, and then they go on a tear, and you're like, what?
they save it. Yeah. And what you were saying, I thought you were talking about Minnesota, but you're really talking about Denver, but you could have been talking about Minnesota. It's wild.
Right.
That is totally
Right.
wild. Totally wild.
They lost their two best players, their quarterback and a star wide receiver, and they've won 5 in a row.
They've lost 3 of their 4. They've even lost KJ Osborne.
Yeah. And traded their running back.
And they traded their running back. Yeah, exactly. So pretty weird. Just a very weird chain of events. But the thing that I have too, I don't think either of those guys returning are at full strength. My inclination is that KJ Osborne probably still has some lingering effect of a concussion still that granted he'll play, but it's still there. And then Justin Jefferson coming off of a hamstring issue, that's not going to be 100%. So I think they pretty much are going to Denver with the team that you see in place now, the team that you've been seeing over the last few weeks. So if that's the case, I think Denver just has a better team right now.
But 5 wins in a row, I don't even know anymore. Like
exactly, and it's not saying anything negative about those wins, but it's just saying look at the quality of football that Denver's playing at home, playing at night, in an environment that Minnesota really only encounters theoretically once every 8 years. So you're going to have guys who probably don't even play their career for the Vikings who have never even stepped foot in Mile High Stadium.
I'm almost talking myself into Minnesota. Hear about this.
Okay.
Denver is 2-3 at home. Minnesota is 4-1 on the road.
True. 4-1 on the road, except this is a Denver team, especially their secondary is looking better. And it's at Denver at night. And Denver just played at night against Buffalo. I think your familiarity with playing in primetime now is going to transpose into this Sunday. It sounds weird, but for all these reasons, I actually like Denver.
I think they have
Denver more threats. Too, yeah.
But like, they're horrible at home. Like, they're bad at home.
I know, I get it. But the thing is too, like they have all three running backs who are getting involved in the passing game. They have Cortland Sutton, who's doing his thing. You can get big plays out of Marvin Mims. They have a tight end or two. Like, I really do like, in a weird kind of way, how that offense operates and how the defense is getting coached up and better. It's just a huge reflection for Sean Payton. And yeah, like, I have no question that Sean Payton is a way, way better head coach than the head coach of the Vikings.
Yep, I did it. I switched. I'm on Minnesota now.
All right, I'm sticking with Denver. Something sneaky about that team.
You've talked me out of it.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
And then Monday we have Philly at Kansas City. The battle of the two best teams.
Yep, and the Super Bowl rematch.
Yep.
For a while I was thinking Philadelphia. And I mean, if we look at it, basically Philadelphia is showing up again with the same kind of team, but swapping out Miles Sanders for DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, he's still there for sure. But then the Kansas City Chiefs are pretty much the same team with a much better defense. For that reason, I'm taking Kansas City.
Yeah.
And the secondary of Philly is garbage.
I was going to say their secondary is garbage, but Kansas City's passing is also garbage.
Exactly. That is true.
This could, oddly enough, be a very low-scoring game.
Oh, yeah. The over-under for this game is like 46. That's way too high. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
I was going to say like 35.
Yeah,
40
take the under and hammer it. Like, yeah, you could totally get some really good return on investment by betting the under of this game for sure.
Yeah, Philly's really good against the run, but Kansas City can't run and they can't pass.
How is Philadelphia against the tight end? I think that's the bigger question here, right? So if we look at
no one's good against Kelsey.
Yeah, tell that to the Denver Broncos.
Right?
Yeah. So ironically, Broncos are showing up at the top of the list. Or actually, they're showing up as the worst against the tight end. Boy, that's wild. That's pretty crazy. Okay, cool. So if I look at who is the best, like kind of better side of going up against tight ends, yada, yada, Philadelphia is definitely towards the bottom of this list. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sticking with Kansas City. I think Travis Kelce has a good game.
I'm going to say Kelce has a good game too, but I'm going to go with Philly just because Philly can, like, run the football a bit. And that's kind of how you can get through to Kansas City is running the ball.
Yeah, especially against that Spagnuolo defense that brings the house. So if he's going to bring the house, run right at him.
I'm going to go Philly. Just
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
like both teams could tie, knowing what's going on in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely happen, and you might have some crazy offshore sports book that could give you some crazy odds on that. So, yeah, I think it's interesting, but this is a game where, man, I want to pick Philly because I absolutely have a despise for the Kansas City Chiefs and everything they stand for. So, yeah, but unfortunately, I have to pick them.
I just don't. I don't know if. All right, I'm going to go check this really quick about Kansas City.
Yep.
But, like, Philly's the third highest scoring team in the NFL at, like, 29 a game.
Yep.
Kansas City has scored 27 or more twice.
Yeah.
3 times. So, like, they might not be able to keep up score-wise. So that's what – okay, I convinced myself. I'm going Philly for sure.
There you go. Hey, and I hope you're right, Triggs. I hope I'm wrong on this. I really do.
Well, you know what? I need to make myself happy.
There you go.
We're going for happy.
Where are we going? Boom.
So
there it is.
I've completely mixed up what we're doing with 5 Up for No Debate this
I like
week,
it.
and I'm excited to hear this.
Let's do it.
Because this is coming out of left field, and you don't know what's happening.
Nope, nothing.
Instead of 5 questions this week, I just want 5 teams that you'll no longer touch in fantasy.
Ooh, 5 teams I'll no longer touch in fantasy. Easy. For sure, the New England Patriots. They are right there. They are a team that has no clue what the heck it's doing on offense. And looking again at a team like them, it would have to be the Carolina Panthers, because pretty much they all stink unless you're Adam Thielen. And then the one that's kind of intriguing is DJ Shark. He's not even available out there in most leagues, at least in our league. So he's a guy that I wouldn't touch. So boom, Carolina, New England, those two are gone. And some of these other teams, the New York Giants, we don't know what the heck's going on there now that they're on their 3rd quarterback. Saquon Barkley's not doing much. No Darren Waller. There's nothing going on with the Giants. So you can totally push them to the side as well. Looking elsewhere, probably looking in the NFC South. I would think you have to go down there. Basically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the only players that are relevant are already on teams. So that's Godwin, Evans, and the running back, Rachaad White. They're all on teams. So you're not going to play with any else of those guys who might be available on the waiver wire. So the Buccaneers are clearly one as well.
Wait. You wouldn't, like, Mike Evans is not fantasy relevant to you?
No, he is, but he's just not a player that I can acquire. I mean, if that's the technicality we're going with. I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, the Buccaneers have guys who you can totally play with. So yeah, I see where you're going with this. Okay, so the Buccaneers we can't put on the list for that reasoning. So
they have one guy.
They got at least one guy. I think they got 2. I think Rachaad White is really, really good. So that's what's going on there. But yeah, if I look out east with the Giants, then you got the Panthers. Then who else?
What about the Atlanta Falcons? Because Bijan, they gave him enough carries one time.
Right.
We don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Yeah, and kind of considering how you put out the 12 personnel, I think Drake London's a little beat up. Yeah, you really don't play at all with that Atlanta Falcons offense either. So yeah, you got Panthers, Falcons, Patriots, those guys, Giants. Those are clearly the 4 teams that you don't want anything to do with in fantasy. And then if I'm looking at a 5th team, and unfortunately this guy is on my team, and I have no clue what the heck to do with him. I almost want to put the Chicago Bears in here because we just don't know what's going on. Justin Fields is playing weird, and he's been banged up, and then you get weird games. You get DJ Moore explodes or DJ Moore does nothing. So that's a really tough one, but I feel like there's a 5th one out there hiding on me that I'm not seeing.
You mean
gosh,
6th?
A 6th.
Yeah, that would be. So you got New England, Carolina, the Giants,
Yep.
Atlanta, and Chicago.
Pretty much, yeah. Those are pretty much the teams that I'm kicking around. Yeah. I would pretty much stick with those. I mean, your AFC is pretty much loaded everywhere for the most part, except for New England. So pretty much the teams that you are also looking at that are terrible are probably located in the NFC. So that's probably the slew of teams that I would go with.
10-4.
There it is. That's no debate.
Boom.
Boom.
Well, actually, you could add one more. I got one sneaky one.
And that's why I was thinking. I was thinking there was a sneaky team. Would that sneaky team be the Pittsburgh Steelers?
It would be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Because Jalen Warren's good but not great. And then you're flipping a coin between Deontay Johnson and George Pickens.
And technically, like, there's two teams where I'm like, okay, it could be, but like Washington, Sam Howell is kind of going off right now, but no one else is. And then like their running situation sometimes goes off. But like you can't really start any of their receivers and be confident about it because you don't know if they're gonna go off.
Yeah. Logan Thomas is a good tight end though. I'll give him that. Like he's about the one target I really like.
And then the other team, because again, they kind of go off sometimes, and then there's other times where you're like, is that guy even on the field? Is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh yeah. The thing though that I see that is changing with that team is I do think that Josh Jacobs is clearly getting more involved. Plus, Jacoby Myers is like we've always known Jacoby Myers is part of this offense. I don't know if there's people out there who have owned him who have just not played him. I hope not. But Jacoby Myers and Josh Jacobs are two guys you can flat out count on each and every week. The only thing is Devontae Adams is drawing tough coverage. So I think that's kind of playing into the Devontae factor. But other than that, I mean, you can definitely count on Jacobs and Jacoby moving forward.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was easy.
There you go.
Boom. No debate.
Boom. That's no debate. I wish I could say it was easy for me. I mean, man, it's been a really rough fantasy year, and man, I can tell you, I've definitely busted on some of these guys who I think are going to be home run hitters, and some of these teams we talked about. I mean, like the Chicago Bears, I own DJ Moore, so yeah, some of these guys are on my team. That hurts.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense though. Like. Again,
it doesn't.
I've said this the whole show. The NFL is just all over the place. Like
it's wild.
You would think that Justin Fields was going to do some damage, and he didn't even when he was healthy. DJ Moore had that one huge game, and they're like, "Oh, here we go." Nothing.
Yep.
Cole Kmet is probably the most consistent guy on the team.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And he was a great tight end last season, and he's continuing that this year. With a lack of consistency at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. What else you got? Any waiver wires?
Yeah. There are some certain guys out there that we can definitely tackle. We'll blaze through these guys pretty quick. It's not the longest list. It's definitely a mixed bag. And for certain guys you got out there, I pretty much attacked every single position except for quarterback. Pretty much at this point, you either have your quarterback or your waiver wire is pretty much left with someone out there that you can stream. So you should be able to make it work on your end. When I look at the wide receiver side of things and the running backs, I would think wide receiver, you got to go Elijah Moore in Cleveland. Just had a really big game last week against the Ravens, going up against Pittsburgh. That's one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. So I do like the upside that you can get there finally with Elijah Moore coming in to swing with this offense. So I like him a lot. At the running back position, so we know that Alexander Mattison is up with the Vikings as well as Cam Akers. Cam Akers goes down. Ty Chandler is the guy you got to get. If you can get him, he's taken over. He's better than Alexander Mattison. There was talk about Ty Chandler even coming into the season that he might be the number one guy. And I think at this point, he clearly is. So he's totally a guy you got to go out there and get. When I'm looking at the tight end position, so it's a really, really rough list of guys that are out there. But I think if you can get him, I would think a guy kind of like a Hayden Hurst, if he's healthy, that's probably a way you can attack Dallas is at the tight end position. And we know that Bryce Young likes to utilize the slot players. He likes Adam Thielen quite a bit. I would think Hayden Hurst plays into this as well. So he's definitely a guy you can get. When I go back to the wide receiver position and I look at a team like Cincinnati, we know T. Higgins is banged up. And one of the guys that both Triggs and I regretted picking up in waivers, I think this is a guy you keep. I don't know how you roll with him, but Trenton Irwin is really solid. He kind of plays almost like a pseudo tight end as well when I watch the games. So Trenton Irwin, I think, is really solid. And I think he draws kind of the weaker coverage going up against secondaries that the Bengals play against. So he might be a guy that you just stream and you go with. I think he's definitely a possible guy. And finally, we will go to the defensive side of the ball. So something I kind of like that's going on out there is, yes, you have the Vikings against Denver. I don't know. I think that could work. It might not. Vikings definitely play a lot of zone. But another team that's out there that plays against a really bad defense, we pointed this out, Sam Bradford's I'm blanking.
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's back with the LA Rams. And the Seahawks play up against him. But the thing that I like about the Seahawks is the end of their season schedule. And I made a video about this a while back in the offseason. Their final 4 games are against Philadelphia. That'll be tough. But then they finish against Tennessee and Pittsburgh. And if you're a league that plays in the 18th week of the season, boom, the Arizona Cardinals. So there you go. You got 3 simple defenses to finish off the year with the Seattle Seahawks. That's a really good streaming defense I think you can get for your postseason. That's no debate.
Boom.
Boom. That's how you do it. So there you go. There's all your waiver pickups. We got our picks for the week. We got Triggs, myself. We made it. Boom. I think we're good. You got any video games for the week?
Ooh,
what you got behind you, Triggs?
I don't know. Let's see what's up here. Oh, we did that yesterday. Oh,
okay.
Most people, they will not even know this game, but might as well throw it up on the screen for someone will get it. It is ECW Hardcore Evolution. It even has a Blockbuster sticker.
Wow. That's classic. That's Americana right there. That is gorgeous. That is awesome.
That is a very, very unknown wrestling video game.
That's a wrestling video game. Interesting. I had no idea what kind of genre that video game was. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's the fun of the day.
Absolutely. So the belt. So we kind of switched up the color combination from yesterday, going all black and silver and Raiders victory and all that. And now we're going blue and yellow. So there's been some talk of the Brewers actually negotiated a deal. We got some, we pretty much have them in town now for the next 3 decades. So looks good. Feels good knowing that the Brewers are here to stay, and I like it. So for that, blue and yellow, we're going Aquaman. I love my Aquaman belts.
Solid.
See if I can bring that up.
I'm pretty sure we got a new manager too. If I'm
is that official?
Mistaken. I think it was made official. Yep. The bench coach Pat Murphy.
Gotcha. So he stays on. I know he was he was actually Council's head coach at Notre Dame, from what I heard.
Nice.
So that's pretty good. I'm glad they stayed in-house. I like that. We'll see what happens. And, they already have good things intact. So with that investment and staying in-house, I like the future of the Milwaukee Brewers. So good stuff. I love it. Boom.
True story.
True story, man. Hey, thanks for everyone showing up, checking in. giving us their insights on their fantasy football team so we can help you build a better team, win your leagues, whatever it takes. So always hit us up. We got more fantasy stuff we drop. We got each and every show Monday and Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central. So there you go. There it is. You'll see us here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So for that, you got myself, Steve Metrics, and over there, your boy,
DJ Triggs.
And boom, together we are No Debate Sports. And that's